One of the things that I hear really often when it comes to anxiety and agoraphobia and panic is I feel stuck. I can very much relate to this because this is something that I used to feel really often, that sense of being trapped, of being stuck, of things being stagnant, of nothing changing, of feeling like every day was a rinse and repeat of the day before. And even though I was, trying to get better, things were still staying the same. It was so infuriating and it felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall, and I didn't know how to change that. I didn't know how to get unstuck because it seemed like everything I tried, I came up against this like roadblock. The thing is that feeling of being stuck ends up perpetuating this real hopelessness with anxiety and agoraphobia. Now, there was something that I found that really, really helped with that feeling of being stuck. And often, when we have these sort of like states of mind, we feel like we have to make a mental change to change that state of mind. But actually, what I found is the way to change that feeling of being stuck, the way to change that mental frame of mind, is to do something physical. And it involves physical movement. Now, there's a whole scientific reason for this, and I talk about this in the book. There's this thing called proprioception. And basically, what that is it's your ability to understand where your body is in space. So, for example, if I hold my hand out here, I can sense that I'm holding my hand out here, not just because I can see it, but even if my eyes are closed, I still know that I'm holding my hand out here. And I know that because of a thing called proprioception. And so that's how your brain perceives what your body's doing in the space around you. Now, the thing about proprioception is we think that it just relates to something like, holding your hand out here, like, physical activities. But what proprioception also does is that we start to learn about our mental state by sensing what our physical state is doing. So, to give you an example of this, for somebody who is feeling down and depressed, their physical state is likely to be one of, you know what I mean, like your head down, shoulders hunched, like just like sort of that like hopeless kind of stance. We can all sort of picture that if you think about what that might look like if you're feeling sad and depressed. It's very much like a closed kind of state. Similarly, if you're talking about someone who's really anxious, it's probably like shoulders still hunched but quite tight, quite contracted around here and very like pulled in and like ugh. So it's the very much that like sense of contracting and shrinking and trying to take up as little space as possible because you're trying to control everything in your surroundings. When we are in this state for an extended period of time, even if we might think, but I'm not physically in that state every day, like I'm not sitting like this at home, I think what you'll find is if you're somebody who's dealt with a lot of anxiety or deals with a lot of anxiety, you probably spend majority of your day very tight, very contracted, very much having that inability to kind of let go and to take up space. And so what that is telling your mind is that you're in danger. It's not safe. It's not okay to breathe and relax. And so that's what you sense from your body. And your mind then kind of matches that state by giving you thoughts that match that sort of physical manifestation of contraction. So your body is doing this, and then your mind is also doing this. So it's contracting, it's thinking of, all the terrible things that might happen, all the reasons you feel unsafe, all the reasons you feel stuck. Because if you stay like this for a long time, it feels like there's no movement. It feels like there's no space. Imagine if you're like in this tiny box. That's kind of what it is like. Like you're stuck in this box and there's no room to move because you've taught yourself that nothing is safe. And fair enough that you've taught yourself that because, if you're somebody who deals with panic attacks, it feels like nothing is fucking safe. So it's understandable. But then this is where that sense of being stuck comes in. So we're physically feeling trapped. We're physically, having that like body language of being contracted and shrinking and feeling unsafe. And then our mind is following suit with the same sort of thoughts and the same sort of emotions and feelings. And then that's when we feel like we are stuck, like nothing's changing, like nothing's getting better. No matter what we do, we just can't seem to get out of this funk. This is where we need to start introducing physical movement in order to get unstuck. Because what this is going to do is when you start physically moving your body and expanding and taking up space, it's going to communicate to your brain via that proprioception sense that it's okay to move, it's safe to move, it's okay to expand and to take up space and to like do something different. And it happens very quickly, and we really underestimate the power of something as simple as like going for a walk. When I was housebound, obviously it was very hard for me to go for a walk because I was housebound. But that was part of my, initial exposure sessions, was literally going outside and taking a few steps down the street and then scuttling back home again. But that was kind of my goal every day, like get out and walk. And I would find that inside the house, I was so frustrated, so depressed, so depleted, so hopeless, so just like, what's the point? Nothing changes, so frustrated by the idea that like I'm trying so hard and nothing's changing. It's all too hard. And again, fair enough that I had that mindset because my body was telling my mind that that's exactly how I felt. And so that was how I felt. But once I actually started getting out for walks, even though there was initially that feeling of like, this is terrifying, like that adrenaline kind of feeling, at least that was a different feeling to feeling hopeless and powerless. Like there was elements of that in it, but it wasn't that like sense of being stuck. It was more like a feeling of like, oh my God. I would walk down the street, and after 5 minutes down the street, I would start to feel different. I would start to feel maybe a sense of possibility, a sense of like, hey, I'm actually doing this, a sense of achievement, a sense of hope. And then my mind would follow with thoughts of like, hey, maybe I can actually get better. Maybe I can do this. Maybe tomorrow I can go for a longer walk. And of course, sometimes I would end up psyching myself out. It didn't always go like according to plan. But the point was, the more that I physically moved my body, the more my mind started to feel less stuck. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, of course, you were getting out of the house, so you were feeling like less stuck because you were physically less stuck. But that's the point. The more that you do that, the more you actually physically move your body, the more your mind starts to sense that you are somebody who goes out, that you are somebody who expands and somebody who takes up space, and that it actually might be safe to do those things. You don't have to go for walks. I found that really helpful for me because it was like something I could still kind of control, like it was slow and I could like go back home if I needed to. But your physical movement, that might look totally different. Like maybe your physical movement is dancing, or maybe your physical movement is going rollerblading, or like whatever it might be. If you're not housebound, then you've got a lot of options. Maybe you can start going for hikes, maybe you can start going running, maybe you can start swimming. Physical activity is not just going to help you in the sense that it's going to increase those endorphins, those feel-good chemicals, and going to help with your health and well-being in general. It's going to help to give you that frame of mind that helps you to feel unstuck. So my advice is, start today. If you are somebody who's feeling stuck, take yourself out for a walk, even if it's just literally down your driveway and back. Take yourself out, change your environment, and start to sense what your body's doing when you move and when you take up space and when you actually open to the world around you. I promise it will make changes, and it might feel terrifying, it might feel scary. I mean, not it might, it will. It will feel like those things if you're somebody who has avoided doing things like that. it will feel scary. But the more you do this, the more you build up to it, the better it's going to feel. And I can absolutely attest to that. Like these days when I go for walks, it feels just amazing from the beginning. But even if I'm having trouble with something like writing, or I'm, had an argument with someone and I just need to like untangle my thoughts, going for a walk is the way to do that. And a lot of it is to do with that sense of proprioception, and the sense of getting yourself in a different physical state helps you move into a different mental state as well. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you're all having a really great day, and I will see you next time.